elated, totally elated, and just wonderful. Earlier, we heard a woman with a great voice sing. And let me put my glasses on so I can read this. She sang, "Lift Every Voice and Sing." Her name was Rosemary Allen, and she was the vocalist. And she was tremendous. Really, I think we should get her. So the reason I mention her, because if you go back to the early 60s, if she was in Atlanta, Georgia, she wouldn't be allowed to sing. She wouldn't be allowed to go to a restaurant and have a meal. She wouldn't be allowed to go to a hotel. She wouldn't be allowed any that others were entitled to. Completely denied. And at that time, Marian Anderson went to Atlanta, Georgia, and they did not let her sing. And she was one of the greatest opera singers in the world. And Atlanta, Georgia called itself the city with a heart, and yet they denied services if you were black. You were ostracized. And that was going on in Martin Luther King Day. The sit-ins started about 5 years before, around 1959. Black college students started sit-ins at restaurants, at hotels, and at municipal buildings. Martin Luther King went down to Atlanta, which was his home, and joined the sit-ins. And he was arrested many times. Now, we go to December 1964, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. won the Nobel Peace Prize. Atlanta, the city too busy to hate, didn't want to honor Martin Luther King because he was black. They weren't going to boycott him. It had nothing to do with him. So several black leaders got together and they approached 4 men. One of the men was Ralph McGill. He was an editor of the leading newspaper in Atlanta. And Paul Hallahan was a Catholic priest. And Benjamin Hayes was the president of Morehouse College. And Jacob Rothschild was a Jewish rabbi. So the black leaders went to these 4 men and asked them to honor Dr. Martin Luther King. And so the 4 men decided to have a banquet. Well, the white power in Atlanta boycotted the banquet. So ticket sales were almost zero. There were almost no ticket sales. Oh, my wife said this is what I should say. So here's what happened next. The president of Coca-Cola saw what was going on, and he said he was not going to be intimidated, and he bought a whole block of tickets. Then the president of Haiti, and his name was Doc de Valera, called his banker in Atlanta and asked if he was in on the banquet. The banker said he wasn't, and he bought a block of tickets. Now tickets became a hot item, and thousands that wanted to go to the banquet couldn't go. Now, the banquet was shown in the movie Driving Miss Daisy, where Morgan Freeman drove Jessica Tandy to the banquet. And they showed a part where Dr. Martin Luther King was speaking at this banquet. There were about 1,500 people, around 650 black and 850 white. And they had a marvelous time. This began the integration in the South. That was the first time that blacks and whites sat together at the table of brotherhood in the South, in a hotel, in the banquet room. The Jewish temple had a plaque, a crystal plaque made of, and the crystal plaque said, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., recipient of the Peace Prize, citizen of Atlanta, January the 27th, 1965.